Welcome everyone. We might get started. My name is Dallas Dower. I'm the Assistant Director General for Strategic ICT within the Department of Science, Information Technology and Innovation. I'd like to start today by respectfully acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which this event is taking place, and elders both past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues here today, the Director General of DCITI, Jamie Merrick, and the Queensland Chief Information Officer, Andrew Mills, who's hiding down the back. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping things to go through. So for the comfort of your companions, can you please ensure that your mobile phones are either turned off or set to vibrate and no sound? For those who need amenities or toilets, there are some toilets down on this level past the cafe, or there are also some toilets down on the ground level or level 0. In the unlikely event that we have a fire, can you please make your way through the fire exit? So there's one at the front here, one down the back, and the assembly point is the Queensland Arts Gallery Plaza. Also, excuse me, remind you that the State Library of Queensland is a non-smoking venue, so please refrain from smoking in this venue or nearby. Okay, thank you. I'll give you a quick overview before I introduce our guest speaker, so to speak. Quick overview of today's event. So today the session will include information regarding the 6 problem definitions and with an opportunity for a Q&A session after each problem. So each of the sponsors of the problems will come up on stage and talk about that for a few minutes, and then there'll be opportunity for questions. There will be a roving mic which will circulate around. I should also point out that we are live streaming this, so that there will be some questions that potentially may come in via Twitter, and we'll also read those out as well. In addition to the Q&A session after the speakers of each problem have spoken, there will be time at the end of the session, so we anticipate that this will go through to about 11 a.m, which you can join us for refreshments outside, and there are a number of booths that have been set up along the windows there where each of the sponsors for the problems will be available for further questions after that, so please avail yourself of that opportunity. As I mentioned, we are live streaming. For our live streaming participants, questions can be sent via Twitter using the hashtag #AdvanceQueensland. So that's pretty much the order of today. I'd now like to introduce the Director General of DCITI, Mr. Jamie Merrick. Jamie was appointed as DG in February this year, although he was acting from August last year. Jamie's undertaken a number of roles, senior roles in the Queensland Government over the last few years, Jamie, although nothing wrong with this, but Jamie originates from the UK. It's okay as long as Australia stays ahead of the UK on the medal table in the Olympics. It's okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Dallas. Australian Sevens women have just won, by the way, so it just takes us further ahead. So, look, thanks everyone for attending. And can I start by acknowledging as well the traditional owners on whose land we gather and pay my respects to elders past and present. This programme really reflects a commitment the Minister made in April this year at the Innovation Summit, where she made a commitment on stage that she wants to continue and accelerate the opening up of government procurement and government opportunities to SMEs and startups. We recognise it's not always been an easy journey in terms of working with government, and there's more we can do. So this programme is really important in terms of both accelerating the growth and capability of Queensland SMEs, working alongside the department, but also in a broader sense positioning Queensland small businesses and startups in terms of the very large government market for ICT. So we know in Australia alone it's over $6 billion per annum. Internationally, a number of governments are really trying to push hard to open up more procurement opportunities in the ICT space for small businesses. So the UK, for example, 33% target of procurement from SMEs. So we really want to give Queensland SMEs an opportunity to position themselves in those emerging markets. It is a short program, 12-week. This is the pilot phase, to work, as I said, intimately with different parts of the agency and really designed around tackling some challenges that we face rather than government over-specifying solutions, which has often been the case in the past. And just in terms of the value of government as a lead customer, I've talked about the scale of the market, but the benefits, hopefully to you, is it will really allow you in the early phase of developing products, a phase when capital is often short as well, to undertake that development process and for us to slightly de-risk it. This program comes with if you're successful, with a $25,000 grant as part of the scheme. And it also allows you obviously to build a real understanding of what our needs are as a lead customer, and so greater intelligence about what the context is for the way we roll out new program and products within government. And for us, it's really about accessing emerging products. Products that can drive improved services, products that can greatly improve productivity across the public sector, deliver better value for taxpayers in terms of the work that we do. And of course, it's also about increasing competition in the marketplace for us. So, we're very conscious that government can often be risk averse in terms of engaging new entrants or smaller companies. So this is about that sense of validation, not just for this agency, but right across government here and for other governments. And hopefully for us, it will reduce the lead times of bringing new product into the marketplace. And it's part of a suite of programs that the government's brought in, including the recent launch of the Small Business Innovation Research Program, which provides 100% funded R&D contracts to solve major government problems. So we launched the program on the 2nd of August. Applications are now open until the 19th. Following submission of applications, there will be a pitching process. It will involve one or two externals, people with experience both in terms of the ICT space, but also in terms of supporting SMEs and startups to grow. So there's an added advantage there of potentially getting some additional free mentoring in that process. As I say, funding of $25,000 to successful applicants. The process of working alongside the department around the challenges that will get discussed later will take place from mid-September through to early December. And at the end of that process, depending on how the process has gone, there may be the opportunity for us to then procure longer term through the SME participation standard, subject to all working well. But there'll also be an opportunity for you to engage and showcase solutions to other buyers within government as well. And hopefully that process of active demonstration of product and validation will be valuable in that sense. So look, it really is a bit of a learning journey for us and a different way of working for us, but I hope you can see the genuine commitment that we have to opening up new ways of doing business with SMEs and startups within Queensland. So it's as much an opportunity for us to do things differently as it is for you to access work with us and also develop emerging product. So really, Dallas, that's all I wanted to say. But thank you for attending. I look forward to lots of applications, and I'm sure it will really make a difference to the services and offerings that we provide to citizens here in Queensland, but also across government as well. And I should say, just as context, sorry, Dallas, just as context, it's worth being aware in terms of not only the services we provide externally, but internally to government, for instance, through our shared services. We service something like 70,000 public servants through QSS alone. SciTech, of course, services very large numbers of government agencies, 24 government agencies, something of that order in terms of its services and products. So this is actually important for positioning yourself within government as well. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jamie. Thanks, Jamie. So I'll call on stage our first problem sponsor, that is David Craig, and our first problem is Workplace Health and Safety Incidents Capture. So thank you, David.
Thanks, Dallas, and good morning. So the problem or challenge that have been nominated for for hopefully some help with solving, there was a couple of perspectives that brought it into the suggestion for this program. Firstly, at the city, and as an employer, we need to ensure that we provide a safe and healthy work environment for everyone. The headcount of our organisation is around about 2,800 staff, and those staff are based across a number of locations in Brisbane, as well as regional areas. And across that workforce is also a very wide range of actual types of roles and jobs. We have our science-related roles, which encompasses a range of field work, ICT infrastructure professionals, customer service centres, call centres, dealing with people over the phone, face-to-face and over the internet, and a range of back-office processing activities and, well, policy and office-based roles. With regard to health and safety, we have existing processes and tools which are adequate. However, we think that there are some aspects which could be improved, and that's led us here today. For example, one of the sort of bits of feedback that I get in the areas I work in relates to the clunkiness of how it is to record and capture incidents and hazard information. Currently, our approach lets people report incidents. Essentially, they need to get back to a computer or a desktop, make sure they can log into the network. If it doesn't crash, then it's going okay. If people aren't able to get to a network, it is possible for them to phone up and get someone else to capture those details. So by the time people get to a phone or get back to a desktop, they might have moved on doing some other activities or work and not capture that particular incident. So there's a risk there that we might not be capturing everything. The current solution, it's a little bit hard to use for our users, is the feedback in terms of how they move around and record the information. A number of drop-down lists that aren't particularly intuitive. And if you're not using it frequently, and we hope none of our staff are using it frequently, it may be difficult to identify the appropriate information to put in to make sure that we're getting the best capture. As I mentioned, there is some potential lag time for the solution, which could be a reflection of the current hosting and network arrangements as well. And if you did take photos, probably with your phone, then you need to download those to your computer, then upload it into the reporting solution. One of the other challenges with the current solution is that we have in place is that once you lodge that, the notification, which might go to your supervisor or manager via email, but then if they're not there, that sits in abeyance for a period until a later notification. So there may be some delay in the reporting of certain incidents. The second perspective that brings into this relates to my part of the city and shared services, where we do provide services to a number of customer agencies, all agencies except for health and education, basically. Those agencies also are big and small and have a whole range of different roles and activities. And over the past 12 months, we've been working with our agencies and partnering with them to understand a little bit more about the sort of HCM needs that they have that may leverage onto the payroll solution services that we currently provide. And the challenge that's commonly raised across those agencies has also come back to this same problem, and that is about capturing and then being able to analyse and report on workplace health and safety incidents and hazards. A number of those agencies have paper-based or email information to record those, and then it gets entered into spreadsheets. So for this program, the opportunity to go and showcase a potential solution to those customer agencies is another advantage that we see. In both circumstances, for our own agency and that of our customer agencies, once the information is in there, the challenge is about how do you actually get any insights and report and analyse on that information. Our supervisors and managers say that they don't necessarily have ready access to that information at present. And the responsibility for generating those reports currently sits with a centralised unit in our corporate HR area and involves a series of manual steps, downloading into Excel, manipulating the data so that people only get to see the bit that relates to them, and broader management still gets a broader view. And if you do want an ad hoc report, that same process needs to be followed, so there may be some time delays for that. I should stress, it isn't all bad. Our current processes and solutions do work, and we do provide a healthy and safe work environment for our staff. It's just that we think that there might be some opportunities there that we can pursue through this program. So to summarise or restate the challenge, it's how do we make capturing and reporting health and safety incident and hazard information quick, easy and readily accessible for our staff, and how do we make health and safety management and insights ready, accessible for our managers and executives.
Okay. Thanks, David. So now we'll take some questions from the floor. So we do have a roving mic. If I just ask you to put your hand up and we'll get the mic to you. Also, those people on the live stream, just a reminder, if you can Twitter to hashtag Advance Queensland and we'll get those questions put up as well. Thank you. So, over to you guys. Must be some questions. Yep, down the back there. Thank you.
So there's probably some examples in the market already that's got, in particular, one from Queensland, iAuditor or something like that, that's particularly suited for this kind of work. Why aren't you using something like that? Why are you looking for a new solution?
I guess in terms of, we have an existing arrangement. In terms of what opportunities might be there in the market, we could go through a traditional procurement process at the moment, but at the moment we're trying to essentially table what is the challenge, and that solution and other solutions that might be out there may form part of the responses that we do get. So definitely open to the idea, but I guess not looking to lock down at this point.
I guess we're also interested to see whether there may be a different way of approaching the problem with a different solution as well.
Damien Vassallo from Right Crowd. So with the provisioning of incidents, how are you correlating that to an individual? Are you using swipe events from physical access control systems, or is it just purely anecdotal?
I may have to refer to an expert for the booth on that one. I suspect it's more of the latter, and I'm getting a nod, so yeah.
Well, if you want to do it the first way, then I can help.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions coming through Twitter? Well, while we're waiting, I'm going to ask David a question as well. What's the volume and type of incidents that the city has, David?
Okay, so our volumes are happily fairly low. In the last 12 months we had around about 200 incidents, and a fair proportion of them do relate to journey type claims, which again, when you then go to actually capture that information, being a journey claim, it might be a delay in that as well.
Okay, so last calls for questions. If there's... Oh, Greg, excellent. Down the front here, thanks.
Good morning. Good morning, my name is Christina Dean. I represent Change Management Interests, and I'm just wondering whether or not you're planning to include the latest legislation around workplace health and safety, the provisions of mental health and safety in your new capture.
Thanks, Christina. Good question. I'm getting a nod that says yes again. So we'll using the same processes and systems, but we will look to encompass that as well.
Will you link that back to human resource management, employee engagement?
I suspect the answer to that is yes.
Okay. Last call for questions. Nothing from Twitter? Okay. Then thanks, David. We might move on to the second problem, and I'd like to welcome Alina Tracy to the stage. Alina works in the Office of the Director General, and Alina's going to take us through the Smart Editing and Style Guides problem. So thanks, Alina.
Thanks, Dallas. Excuse the eyes, I can't see very well. Firstly, thank you for taking the time this morning. I understand you're little business people. It's a big investment to come and listen to us. The problem I'm presenting today is called Smart Editing and Style Guides. In a nutshell, this problem is looking for a solution that improves the writing capability of our staff and the quality of the multitude of documents that we produce. Doesn't sound sexy, but it's incredibly critical. As David mentioned, our department is large and diverse, and we have close to 3,000 people across 9 different divisions. Our workforce includes scientists, ICT specialists, policy officers, corporate services professionals, grants managers, archivists, commercialisation experts, and customer service agents, to name a few, and no doubt I've missed a couple. While our staff are skilled in writing in their own technical domain, generally their capability does not translate well to other types of documents and correspondence required to be produced for use outside of their work area. So that's whether it's corporate publications, things to get through ministers, speeches, parliamentary documents, so forth. By nature of our business and being a government department, and we're not isolated, all other government departments have the same challenge, we produce public reports and strategies, briefing notes for the Minister and Director General, letters to industry and the general public, business cases, parliamentary and cabinet documents, speeches, and the list goes on. Having to write for a variety of audiences and a number of correspondence types, and sometimes adhering to different style guide requirements, can be confusing for staff. The result in a lot of cases is that documents written do not hit the mark. They are bounced backwards and forwards between reviewing officers and the author, and invariably take a lot of time to see daylight. Being removed from the audience or target recipient of the correspondence without an understanding of the way to present information to make an impact or get a decision can cause frustration when the document is returned for further work. I'm finding that staff don't know how to pitch for the end game. When they write their technical documents, that's brilliant in whatever language or technical speak they want to use, but to get it across outside of their environment, they struggle, and it causes heartache left, right and centre. Across our department, we have 10 different correspondent units that coordinate documents. We have divisional review officers in each executive officer. We've got a comms team that writes and coordinates event paperwork, and we have a multitude of executive level approvers along the way. We have an accidental industry that creates paperwork. This is all before the document makes it to the Office of the Director General for approval or endorsement to progress to the Minister. Our experience in the Office of the Director General is that a lot of the documents we receive are not written in plain English. They're overly complicated and have long sentences. The pet is to add and then and. So they do not have the audience in mind, they aren't pitched for the external reader, and they do not include enough or the right information for a decision maker to make a call. We do have published style guides, however it is likely that the majority of our staff do not know of their existence or just don't have the time to work their way through them. I think they're about 30 odd pages. The templates we have contain instructions, but they're removed by the author. So as you write it says please remove the box, so as it goes through the food chain, who knows what the rules were at the beginning. We have tried sending staff to training. This hasn't been successful. It's a point in time thing, or it's your traditional course goers that tend to go. Writing is a skill that develops through regular practice. It really is a use it or lose it scenario. A lot of our staff may write a lot, but do not have the experience or regular requirement to write for impact and result outside of their technical domain. If we can crack this issue, the benefits for us are huge. Being able to create high quality documents with minimal rework will lift the capability and job satisfaction of our staff. It will also reduce the time currently wasted in rework and bouncing up and down the approval chain. It frees up to actually do the real work that we want to do for the community and for Queensland. The frustration experienced by decision makers when they don't receive the right information, or external bodies when they don't understand our responses to queries, will be reduced. So that's all great. What do we need? For us, the solution we are looking for will kick in as soon as someone starts to write a document and be able to be used by those reviewing it. It will provide reviewing and editing assistance, include smart style guides and templates for different types of documents or audiences. It will accommodate customisable style guides and ideally provide capability for a knowledge base of standard content so that we're not reworking. We do a whole lot of referral letters to other ministers. We've got standard responses if people have queries about our programs. If you could just pluck it out rather than try to regenerate it every time, it would be brilliant. Ideally, the solution would attach to email, Word, PowerPoint, etc. to provide seamless assistance so staff don't have to learn to drive another application. Excuse me. For me, I'm looking for a step change in the way that we write, edit and move high quality correspondence through our system So please don't be limited by the basic requirements of what we'd like the solution to be able to do. We don't know what we don't know, so that's why we're here today. So we understand that there will be things in the market that we could plug and play, but they may not be a direct fit for our complicated Queensland Government environment. This is definitely an opportunity for organisations with products to mould and see how it works in one of the most complex organisations on the planet. Thank you.
Thanks, Alina. That sounds like a significant challenge. I'm sure my division doesn't have those issues of documents. Don't answer that question, please. Okay, again, questions open to the floor. Those who are on the live stream, if you can tweet to that hashtag Events Queensland. Questions, please. Again, raise your hand if you've got a question. Michael?
How important is searching capabilities and therefore metadata in these?
Can you say that again, please, Mike?
How important is searching? So I've written a memo or a brief before, so I'm going to go find that. Are we intending the system to be able to do that? And obviously that attaches itself to metadata.
Yeah. For me, it's not only excuse me, overly critical in this one. We have a workflow system called MEX, it's MinCore, run by Bay Technologies. That's where our documents land and go through the workflow, and we can search through that. So for me, this is about just making us write better.
I think you stumped them. So before you go, Alina, just to prime some of the questions, what systems is the department currently running? You talked about workflow system MinCore. Anything else that is worthwhile mentioning?
We're your basic organisation. We work on Microsoft products primarily. Most of the organisation is on Office 365, so there is that cloud interaction. But we do have elements of the department that are still on the server-based stuff. I think SciTech, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So as I said, we do have a workflow system. There is a few TRIM and RM8 instances and RecFind, so a couple of documents management systems flying around. They're at the divisional end of town, so how they file it is, we'll have to ask each of those. I haven't driven it yet. So.
Thanks, Alina. Mike?
Michael.
So the question was, how many documents does Alina get in a day?
So give a bit of context. I see all Director General correspondence, all ministerial correspondence for the department. I did have a backlog of one day the other day, and I think I sat down on Sunday and worked my way through 60 pieces. So that's from speeches to briefing notes to things for events to general letters, and that's before we worried about the annual report. So it's high traffic. And we're just at the executive end of town, so inside divisions will be equally as scary.
Okay, any tweets coming through? No tweets? Last call for questions. While we're going, racing through this, you're obviously anxious for some morning tea.
Great.
Okay, thanks, Alina. So, I'd like to introduce our next speaker onto the stage. That is Karen Nowd. Karen works in our strategic projects area as a program director and is about to outline a problem which I know is near and dear to Karen's heart and our own hearts. So thanks, Karen. Over to you.
Thanks, Dallas. As Dallas said, my name is Karen Nowd. I'm program director in our strategic ICT projects team, where we collaborate and across agencies and deliver on cross-agency initiatives. I love projects. They start, they end, we get to move on to the next exciting opportunity, and they're a great opportunity for our staff to develop new skills. They're dynamic, and the teams need to work with speed and agility to meet their goals and objectives. Actually, in today's work environment, it's probably no longer unique to the project world. It seems to be the way that things are, no matter what our team environment. Finding the right resources with the right skills at the right time is often a game of chance. particularly when the requirement may only be for a short period of time and it doesn't warrant the time investment for a full traditional recruitment campaign. I know that we have a very talented workforce within our midst. As a project manager and a program director, I've lost count of the times that I've stumbled across a treasure trove of skills and experience in my own project teams that I didn't even know existed until a new issue or challenge presented itself. Usually in the form of a random thought bubble from a boss that left me wondering, how am I ever going to find the skills and resources we need to deliver that in the time frame? Creating increased visibility of our diverse talent pool and finding a fast and effective way to tap into this talented workforce for short-term opportunities is the problem that I'm looking to solve. Currently, we advertise a vacancy and then we wait for a response to our application. Like most project managers, I hate waiting. Or we might get on the phone or email to those that we know to see if there are resources out there that might be a fit. Unfortunately, I don't know everybody. Or we may do the best that we can with a potentially lesser skilled resource that we have in our own team. Within the city, we may also promote an opportunity through our relatively new Hot Tasks initiative, which uses Yammer as a platform to promote available opportunities. But again, this is a one-way search. As a hiring manager, we're looking for a tool that allows us to tap into the enormous talent pool we have before us and to be more proactive in our search for the skills and resources we need to undertake short-term assignments without having to rely entirely on our limited personal network. As employees, we're looking for a way to tap into opportunities that allow us to undertake a short-term secondment to further develop our potentially underutilised skills, and then bring those enhanced skills and experiences back to our original teams. As an organisation, we're looking for workforce agility, a fresh approach to utilising our existing pool of talent to meet peak demands, which may be seasonal, and to deliver on emerging priorities within a short time frame. The benefits, hopefully, are obvious. An enterprise approach to distribute resources to address peak demands, an efficient matching of skills with opportunities, reduced risk of delays on projects that might result from resource availability, greater staff development and mobility opportunities, increased productivity, engagement, and retention of our talent. And finally, increased collaboration, engagement, and knowledge sharing across our divisions. Hopefully we've got a solution out there.
Thanks, Karen. Again, questions from the floor, raise your hands. Again, a reminder for those people on the live stream to use that hashtag. First question.
In terms of short term, I've actually got two questions. So short term, what are you speaking there? Within the week, a day, 3 weeks?
So typically maybe 6 weeks to 3 months. So you might not, run a full recruitment campaign by the time you've done that. The need is probably passed. So, those short-term engagements where we're looking to tap into the talent which is already in our workforce.
And that's including contractors or existing employees?
I would say existing employees. So we're trying to utilise our untapped workforce far more efficiently.
So have you developed a competency matrix in terms of those skill sets across the board?
I would imagine that it exists in some pockets of our organisation, but yeah, that would be a requirement for the solution to be able to capture that, but it doesn't have to be, I guess, a standalone solution, but ability to tap into all of those other data sources that we actually already have in the organisation.
So to answer that question, we have done some work around the Sophia framework to capture skills for information age. So there's a little bit of work that hasn't been necessarily rolled out across the organisation. No,
because it's also getting back to the thought bubble thing, where you're trying to just capture that instant moment where you've got, oh, this guy's actually got, or this girl's got this skill set, and you want to be able to capture that at that moment. So that's broadening that concept of the matrix.
Yeah, so it's a two-way, I guess it's a two-way matching. So as employees being able to capture what skills and capabilities we actually have that we may bring to the organisation, but as a person looking for those skills, to be able to find them as well and tap into that.
Okay. Don't be shy. Any other questions? Down the front. Thank you.
Hello. How important is the demand management side of things? So sure, you can do a match and you've got someone who's got great skills. Availability is always an issue though. Is that something that you would want handled within the solution, or is that more of a process thing outside of it?
Look, if we could capture, that the resources are actually available, but for me, once I know that somebody's got the skills, I'm actually happy to get on the phone and see what their availability is, speak to their manager, find out whether they're actually open to an opportunity and available to be released for a short-term opportunity. So, we can't always capture who's available at what particular times, but if that was able to be done and captured dynamically and be kept up to date, regularly, then that would be great.
Again, what sort of volume are we talking about?
In terms of people who might use the solution?
In terms of your database of skills, people with the necessary skills?
Well, I guess we've got a whole range of skills across the organisation, so it's pretty much everything. Projects need all sorts of skills, or different initiatives at different points in time need all sorts of skills. But in terms of the solution, I guess it needs to be able to scale to thousands. So we're not looking for a solution that might be tapped into by our small recruitment team, but for me, as someone who's looking for a resource, and every other manager out there who's looking for a resource to help with a task, to be able to access that store of information, and also for employees to be able to keep their information and their profiles up to date. So I guess it needs to be able to scale to accommodate thousands of both managers and employees. Okay.
Any other questions? Any tweets? Is Twitter working? Everyone's using it to get the Olympic results, are they? Or something like that. Okay, if there's no other questions, then Karen, thank you again for your time.
Thanks,
thank you. Okay, I'd like to introduce our fourth problem, which is self-service of environmental monitoring data, and I'd like to welcome to the stage Paul Cavallaro. Thanks, Paul. I think we've never met, so thanks. Nice meeting you.
Hi, so I'm Paul Cavallaro. I come from the Science Division. I've worked there for a little while, and as you can probably appreciate, we are very data rich within the Science Division. So we've really embraced the Open Data Initiative. Even before it was an initiative in Queensland, we've been sharing data for a long time. So one of our most popular data sets, or types of data sets, is the environmental monitoring data. So we offer waves, heights and direction, tides data, water quality data, and air quality data. So often near real time. We have processes to get this data out. Sometimes it's got a 30-minute lag, sometimes it's got a day lag. We also offer a lot of historical data from sites that we now don't monitor, or short-term projects. I guess the problem here is it's really twofold. There's our internal processes and our external delivery of the data that we're wanting to improve. So internally, there's a lot of moving parts to getting our data out. So we've got essentially 4 different programs collecting the data, 4 different databases essentially storing the data, but getting the data out, we have a whole heap of processes to FTP data around, copy it up to the portal and get it published. With all these moving parts, often things can break. We don't know when they break. Our end users might not necessarily tell us till the next day, a week later, and that sort of thing. So we obviously want to improve that. There's a lot of manual processes, and there's gaps in our data as well. So often we'll put chunks of data out, but there'll be a gap between, say, the last, end of June to the current date, or the start of the year to now. So there's a lag in getting the data out. So on the external side, we want to enable better querying of the data. So users can query by, as many sites as they want, instead of going to visit the portal at 50 and downloading 50 different data sets. Currently, for example, our Waves data is up there by site and by year. So if someone wants all the data, they've got to download five years worth of data as 5 separate files and go and visit every single site, which I think is about 30 or so. So that's a lot of work for the end user. By having a data service to deliver this, we can allow consistent querying. Our time series data has very similar characteristics. So essentially, people can interact and switch between the water quality, the air quality, and query it all in a similar way. So this sort of stuff would help and enable end users, app developers, emergency management, all sorts of different users. We don't necessarily know who they are, but by creating a much easier way for people to query the data would help enable a lot more uses of the data for business and government and that sort of thing. So I guess what we're really looking for is something that can deliver from any of our source systems to the open data portal or to the public, and really enable that end use. So, for example, our Waves data is widely used. They've had a survey up there, and they found that surfers were 60% of the people looking at it daily. If that was made much more easily available, it would open up that market for app developers to, notify them rather than them having to go to the portal or the website to go and check the latest surf or wave heights and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that's probably it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay. Again, questions? Yeah, down the back. Thanks.
Hi. Do you provide an API to retrieve data, like the wave data from remote sensing?
To retrieve it from the sensor, or? From
the sensor directly, yeah. Or is someone collecting it and then storing it in a database?
I believe it's like FTP type processes or scheduled tasks, that sort of thing. I don't believe it's direct API, but might have to take that question to the booth later. Yeah.
Question in the front.
Hi, Paul. In the brief, there was some mention about one of the constraints being the size of files. Can you explain kind of where that constraint is about? Is it about what CCAN can handle, or about what your systems can handle?
Yeah, so the Open Data Portal, for those who don't know, is built on some software called CCAN. So currently we publish a CSV file to the portal which enables some API querying. At the moment, that size of that file is 10 megabytes. So we can't publish all years worth of data for all sites, which would somewhat get us to where we want to be, because that would enable the API functionality. But the limit's 10 megs in the portal at the moment. So yeah, so there's constraints there for our current processes. Yeah.
Any others? Kate?
Sorry, I'm just querying myself here. So you're looking for a complete re-architecture because of the database implication?
Look, not necessarily. Our current delivery is static files. Really looking for, I guess, some sort of data service that can interrogate the systems and deliver a live type service, essentially, to publicly.
Some sort of bus or something that then connects.
Okay. Any others? Any tweets? No? Okay. Rightio. Thanks, Paul. We'll move on. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce our fifth speaker now and our fifth problem. So if I could ask Robert Champion to come to the stage, and Robert's going to talk to you about Consolidated Systems Access Management. Thank you, Robert.
Hi. So I'm Rob Champion from QGCIO, Queensland Government Chief Information Office, predominantly working in the cybersecurity area. The problem that I'm dealing with is around access management and improving our access management. As you heard from Karen before, we're looking for increased mobility to improve our agility of the organisation, like most organisations are trying to today. This increased staff movement sees people move around on short and long-term basis and undertake various roles. Now, when that happens, IT usually try and be very responsive and give people access to the systems that they need at that point in time. So we create accounts for them or give them authorisations to the various systems. That's fairly easy when somebody's starting the job. Our problem becomes if you don't have something, you ask for it, you request it through the help desk, we issue that access. But what happens when they finish that role? Typically, the question is, well, will they be coming back? Have they finished with that access? Do they still need to keep it? It's quite often not well defined. So in this case, we quite often don't take that access off them again. And over the lifetime in the organisation, people accumulate more and more access to systems. We trusted them yesterday, they've moved on to a new role. Why don't we trust them tomorrow? Well, that accumulated access accumulates risk. In most cases, there's no immediate impact of taking that access off them. So it tends to get put on the back burner, doesn't happen, and often goes unactioned because the processes just aren't there to support it. The employees just accumulate that access over time. It's IT that has the visibility of which access people have. It's not the business. So the individual administrators of the individual applications are the ones who are granting and quite often not revoking access to the various resources around the organisation. But there's no overarching view. The information is locked away in the individual sections. The business doesn't know the overall result of that access. So who exactly has access to their data? It's out of mind, it's out of sight quite often. So our business problem is really about how do we create more visibility, especially for the business owners, creating that ongoing review process around what access is in the environment. It's not about limiting access to stuff. It's actually about removing unnecessary access in most cases. Government is a complex business, like most businesses is. You've heard in some of the previous speakers the variety of problems, the variety of systems we're dealing with. Quite often they're not connected up to each other. They may share Active Directory as their identity source, but not authorisation. There's quite often well-defined processes for requesting access, but we're usually not as strong about revoking access. The processes aren't there. When people leave the organisation, we're usually reasonably good at cutting off their account. But where else did they have access? We've got the major ones. We're not quite sure what other systems are in the background there. With the increased use of cloud applications, this problem is just, sort of ballooning for us. So we're looking for a better way of doing this. We're also looking to control those situations where small amounts of, or special privileges have been granted for very narrow, small tasks at a particular point in time, but they don't need to be there every day. Audit and controls frameworks really require us to do this. We're advocating, so my unit advocates with agencies and sets the standards for agencies to do these things, but the tools and mechanisms for doing it aren't really there. There's no one place to look. It's quite resource intensive. So often it just doesn't happen. So realistically for us, in the first instance, we're looking to create visibility. Once we have that visibility, we can look to improve control. Our environment is quite varied. We have a predominantly Windows architecture, but we have an awful lot of information spread across an awful lot of places. So our key things are about Windows shares, Office 365. We also have applications like Orion for HR management. We have SAP that a large amount of the organisation deals with. It's a big, ugly, complex access management problem. But we don't want to go through the boiling ocean identity management approach to the world that the market has traditionally used. So to sum up, we're really looking for a way to improve visibility into access management and to reduce our cost and reduce our risk. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. That sounds like a very interesting problem to solve. So, sure there must be some questions from the floor after that. Thank you.
Rob, we're actually tackling similar situations overseas with the banks, and they're linking it to physical identity, so physical access control. So that's the main purpose of our application, is correlating physical access to an area. And do you have applications that are specific to areas or revoking access based on physical?
Physical building management systems for us are usually not tightly coupled to the IT systems. They tend to be run separately. The same problem really exists in that environment as well. So yes, we could expand this to those areas of physical control.
That would be, from our perspective, how we'd approach it from that way.
Okay. Any other questions? So whilst people are thinking, Rob, just you did mention some of the technologies that we use. You talked about SAP, you talked about Windows. Anything else you'd like to add there in terms of in the environment that people might want to know about?
Yeah, look, given the scale of the organisation, you know, we're about 2,800 users, I believe, but we deliver IT for a wide range of Queensland Government, pretty much every technology. Everything from IBM mainframes right through to custom applications developed on PCs. It is a very diverse environment.
Excuse me, I'm just wondering, did you consider to establish universal OAuth 2.0 or 3.0 server, which would kind of integrate it with other systems?
Sorry, I missed the middle of that question.
Did you consider to establish some kind of OAuth 2.0 or 3.0 server which would be integrated? Of course it would...
So OAuth does address some of the authentication elements to it, but we've got a wide range of legacy systems, traditional systems, that doesn't necessarily work with things like Windows file shares. So this is more of a process issue and a visibility issue than just a gluing things together issue.
Okay, the questions, thank you, in the back.
Hey Rob, are you guys hoping to have this also assess service accounts as well as individuals?
Look, it would probably be a great opportunity to look at those. I don't think we have to boil the ocean in all of these scenarios. Privileged access management and service account management are definitely areas we could look at where we expand this into. There's probably a large scope for that.
Okay, we've got our first tweeted question. Excellent. So the question is, for the audience, are you open to a solution whereby existing software tools like SAP are modified to report access rights to a new software tool?
Yeah, look, I think we're probably open to any innovative solution in this scenario. We'll definitely be guided by, you know, what experience and information is out there. It's probably that visibility of across multiple systems, how do we reach into them, pull them all back into one place is going to be the big challenge. So to answer that question, yes, I think the control piece would come as a second phase potentially.
Okay. More questions? No? Then there's no more questions. Thanks, Rob. Thank you. Now I'll call our final speaker and final problem for today onto stage. So Shane Marshall, welcome. And Shane's going to talk about crowdsourcing data. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Dallas. And a bit of a tag team today. I've got my colleague here, Dave. So Shane Marshall from the Queensland Government Chief Information Office. I was in Sydney last week and was fortunate enough to hear Ian Opperman speak. Ian, for those of you who don't know, he's the recently appointed CEO of the New South Wales Data Analytics Centre. They're doing some really neat stuff down there, and Ian made the comment that there's nothing you can't get data from. So that may be true, but the problem we have here in government is we can't always get access to that data. I head up a new team in the QGCIO focused on driving improvements around the way we share information within government. So I've heard a little bit from the other speakers around some of the complexities in our environment, and we're making pretty good progress on that. We've coined that kind of the phrase of closed data. How do we share data within the government context? I heard from Paul before talking about publishing some of our data into the open data space, and there's been huge increases in the availability and scope of that. Actually, I mentored some teams in Toowoomba last weekend as part of the GovHack Challenge and was amazed there at the innovation and creativity that we can harness from open data. So government is highly complex, and like any business, decisions are made with the best available data. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, there are gaps. So I've talked about closed data, sharing data within government. Talked about open data, sharing government data with the public. As it turns out, the Internet of Things means there's an extraordinary amount of data being generated every second of every day. So what if government could tap into that data to inform policy and planning? What if government could crowdsource data? What if interested and willing citizens could donate their data for public good? Well, that's our challenge. There's endless opportunities that I'm personally really keen to explore. Things like cyclists donating their Strava data to inform bike route planning, smart meters for energy use, or health campaigns informed by fitness data. But the specific challenge we have here today is to improve decision making around where to target investments to improve mobile phone coverage. So that's what we're looking to test and prove, a suite of capabilities to crowdsource publicly generated data on mobile coverage. I'll talk a little bit more later about what the solution could look like, but I'll hand over to Dave now to talk about some of the specifics in relation to the nuances around mobile coverage. Dave.
Thanks, Shane. My name is Dave Blundell. I also work with Shane in QGCIO, and I'll give you a bit more background on the mobile coverage challenge that we're facing. So I guess the recognition of the need for a solution in this space came out of our involvement in the Commonwealth's Mobile Black Spot program. The Mobile Black Spot program is a Commonwealth initiative aimed at improving mobile coverage in regional Australia. It's a co-investment project. The state invested $10 million in round one of the Black Spot program and is able to secure Commonwealth funding for 68 new or upgraded towers over 3 years across 45 different councils. So that was a strong outcome for the state. Commonwealth then announced a second round of funding with applications on that closing last month. States committed a further $15 million to round two in partnership with mobile operators to try and secure more mobile towers through that program. I guess the issue though we've found through 2 years of working on that program is that identifying genuine mobile black spot locations is a real challenge. There's a number of issues. The reports from individuals tend to be anecdotal without a lot of evidence. A lot of councils don't really know where their coverage issues are, or they might pay specialist companies to do drive testing with specialist kit, which can cost them, which can be expensive. And then the public coverage maps of the mobile carriers themselves, they provide a representation of where coverage is, but it's not always accurate. So the actual user experience in the field can often differ from what is publicly published. So it might show an area as having strong handheld coverage, but the reality of the user could be that there's no bars or one bar or very poor signal in the area. Further complicating the issue is that the different carriers all take different approaches to this. So the Telstra, Optus, Vodafone public maps use different mapping algorithms, different mapping techniques. So trying to get a single picture of coverage at any given location is problematic, both as an individual or a council or as a state, which can make decisions on where to co-invest and where the priority is difficult. So I guess that's a challenge we're looking to address. The aim is to get a solution or a mapping solution that provides a single view of the 2G, 3G, 4G coverage of all carriers on a single map, so that there's a single point of truth at any point in time. And the aim is to also extend that to allow integration with other data sets, so that you can, if you can overlay, for example, public safety data sets or other Queensland Government data sets from the likes of Queensland Globe, that can help make decisions. If you can include an overlay of traffic statistics or population growth or other sort of data sets, then and combine that with an understanding of where the gaps are in your mobile coverage, then that can help you identify the locations of greatest need. And I guess the thinking is that we can, crowdsource that data from the mobile devices of citizens themselves to create that mapping view. So I guess that's. I'll just hand back to Shane to wrap up some comments on the solution considerations.
Thanks, Dave. So if we look at the life cycle of data from creation to management to usage and then disposal, I guess we're looking for proposals that could cater for any of those segments, whether it's designing an app that users can use to generate the data on where there's coverage or not. It could be a storage facility with some user controls, or provide analytics and visualization at the end. Ultimately, it'd be great if we could get coverage across all of those. However, if app development isn't your forte, you could potentially interface to or extract data from existing providers that are already in the market, subject to user agreements, of course. As Dave said, we'll be looking to support all mobile platforms, collect data across all carriers, and importantly from a user experience perspective, be lightweight in terms of how it collects the data. So that's our challenge. Thanks, and I look forward to seeing how you could play your part in crowdsourcing data for public good.
Okay, thanks to Shane, thanks to Dave. So again, we'll open the floor to questions. Well, I'll start off then. So if we do find a solution, guys, how do we propose to engage the crowd to get the data?
Well, I guess this is in our discussions with councils and individuals and even state members, this is an outcome that they all would like to assist in their own planning and to know where they could co-invest and have an understanding in their region. So we certainly think we could engage with councils. I mean, councils could, for example, put the app on all council worker mobile devices, trucking companies, citizens, any area that wants to get a better picture of what the mobile coverage is and wants to use that to help inform their decisions, I think would be happy to engage.
Okay. Mike?
My question, I suppose, is about the mobile phones themselves and how you're going to compensate for the cheap phones, which may not have a very strong front end to be able to pick up as compared to more expensive phones which have a higher quality. And do you try and compensate for the lowest common denominator of coverage, or are you going to that level of detail?
Well, I guess that's open to discussion in the solution. I mean, certainly, you could map based on handset type, for example, and carrier type, so you could provide all those different layers of reporting. Ideally, you'd like to get some sort of middle ground for the purpose of investment. You don't want to, but yeah, look, that is a challenge. There are different capabilities, different handset capabilities. So trying to map one common view of handset coverage can be challenging given those issues, but we don't have a fixed idea in mind. That would be something to work through as far as the solution is concerned.
And I guess up until this point, we've kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but been relying on the carriers to provide that information. So really, at a basic level, either there's a signal or there's not. So if we can get the public to contribute to that conversation, then it gives us that richness of data across all the carriers. And there's a lot of places out there where there's the retirees driving roads, there's council workers out there on the roads every day. There's a huge wealth of data out there that we could tap into.
Okay, any other questions from the floor? We've got a tweet coming through. Do you want to differentiate between coverage in homes and in public spaces? Sorry, just speed of typing.
Look, again, I guess if the solution, that could be tricky, given that if it's an app, it would need to somehow identify whether it's in home or in public space. But look, I guess, yeah, the richer data set we can get, what we choose to visualise might be different, but the richer information we can get about the handset, whether it's, in home, in vehicle, public space, all of those will be helpful in identifying investment decisions, but it just depends on what's possible, I guess.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Do we have any final questions? Any questions from the floor on this one? Steph, any other questions coming through? No? Okay, well, thanks, Dave. Thanks, Shane. So I'm just going to check the luncheon. I think we'll go through that in record time, so people must be hanging out for a coffee and a refreshment. That brings us now, I think, to any general questions that people might have about the testing within government programs. So, excuse me, I'll open the floor to any general questions that people might have. Yes, down the back. And Mark, you might come up to on stage. You're the expert on this. Mark Richards has been intimately involved in establishing this program, so he'll know the intricate details about dates and times that I won't or can't remember. Sorry.
Hi. Gavin Kennedy here from QSIF. Just wondering how this information will be put online or made available to us after this meeting, particularly with regards to the individual challenges.
So what we've been live streaming it today. It'll be this will be put online, so you can watch it afterwards if you want to. Plus, we'll also be putting a all the notes from this meeting will also be published online as well. So we'll capture those and publish those as well.
Gee, Mark, no one told me you'd film me. You would have asked for a better fee. That was the case. Any other general questions that people have? We do have a late question that came in relation to resource matching, and the question is, would we see this extending to external applicants? Karen.
At this point in time, I guess we're looking primarily to tap into our existing workforce. So to capture what skills and capability we already have, and to be able to search that within our own workforce to be able to utilise those skills. So that's a primary focus for the challenge.
Thanks, Karen. So, have we have any other? Thank you. Down the Kate.
Hi. I suppose across a number of these problems that have been presented today, part of the solutions may involve sensitive government data and lists of employee names and workplace health and safety incidents. And to the extent that solutions which may be proposed involve storage of that information in cloud-based services and so on. Is there, I know the CIO's office has generated policies before. Is there a clear set of policy which will apply to that kind of information security which is applicable across each of these problems, or do we need to talk to each problem sponsor individually to discuss what sort of policy that they will need to apply in their case?
So you're spot on. So the QGCIO does have some information, IS 18 is one of those, and some other policies on information security. So probably the best thing would be to have a chat to the problem experts outside if there's a particular one that you want to have a chat about.
It's also Robert and Robert Champion over there is right across that, so if there's any specific issues around data security, information security, he's right across it. Do we have any other questions? All very clear, no one else? I'll do an auction, going once, going twice. There's nothing on the screen if you're pointing to say there's another question coming through, the screen is blank. Okay, then thanks for that's the, I guess the general questions. I guess there's time afterwards anyway to go and talk individually to each of the problem participants. Getting signals down the back there. Is there another question coming through? No. It's finally coming through now. So can you just repeat that in the microphone again with the microphone on? Thanks. Penny?
How many solutions will be selected? Is it one per challenge?
Mark?
So yes, we're looking to select 3 into the program and 1 per challenge, yes.
So 3 this time round, so it's really limited by the capacity that we have within the agency to manage the commitment of resources to have 3 problems come through. And if we're successful in doing this, we're keen to actually do another round as well, so after this. So 3 this time round, but it's kind of limited by our resource capacity to manage those. But I'm sure if there were some compelling things, there may be an opportunity to vary that depending upon what comes through. Okay. We done for questions? Thank you, Mark. I might then just close and thank you. So, look, I'd like to thank you for your time today. I appreciate you coming in. I know that we had relatively short notice in terms of putting this event in place. They've actually stood this program up in record time, so I really would like to thank my team that's done that. So Mark and Donna and Lisa's not with us, and Steph down the back. So this has been pulled together very quickly, demonstration of government being able to do things in an agile fashion and quite quickly. So again, thanks to those guys. You've heard from about our 6 problems that's been presented. There's a broad cross-section of the department's problems represented today. So from science, from ICT, from HR, from the Director General's office. So I certainly do hope that after this that you inspires you all to come forward with some innovative ideas to engage with us. We're very keen for our department to be agile and innovative and flexible and working in this program. We do have innovation in our title, so we need to demonstrate that ourselves. And as I mentioned, if this first phase of the program is successful, then there may be other rounds which are considered later on. I guess it's important to remember that this is not just about the solutions themselves. This is also an important learning and capability building experience for both the SMEs and startups and the department. So it may not necessarily mean that as we work through that with the problems that with the solution that necessarily the solution will necessarily go into production. We hope it does, but it's an important factor there is the learning that comes as part of the process itself, than necessarily just the solution. I encourage you to talk to our problem experts. As I mentioned at the outset, they'll be in quasi booths along the windows there, with a little bit of signage explaining which problem is whom, if you can't remember the faces that were talking about the problem. So I encourage you to go to those people and ask more detailed questions afterwards. And we really do look forward to hearing about some innovative solutions at the pitch event that we'll be putting on the 6th of September. So again, look, I appreciate your time. Thanks to the Director General, Jamie Merrick, and to all of our problem presenters, to David Craig, Alina Tracy, Karen Nowd, Paul Cavallaro, Rob Champion, Shane Marshall, and Dave Blundell as well for their presentations. Please go to the Adherence Queensland website to submit your applications. And if you have any further questions, you can either, as I mentioned, talk to our problem experts who will be available in a moment, or you can also send your questions to the following email address, which is up there on the board. That's good. advancequeensland@thecity.qld.gov.au. So thank you all for attending. I think we've also been told we've had 86 people who've live streamed in as well. So that's been an excellent level of interest. So again, thank you very much for your time, and join us outside for some refreshments, and please join the problem experts outside as well. So thank you and have a good day.